Welcome back to this season of The Climb, a journey where listening to your heart reveals your true potential. With the Intermountain philosophy, on this show, we're here to teach you how to embrace the limitless nature of growth.
Women are reshaping the world, driven by their dreams. Our mission is to empower you to listen to your heart, pursue those dreams, to create a community where women like you can begin the climb to choose success together.
In a world of comparisons, reconnect with why your work matters through inspiring stories of female entrepreneurs all around the world.
Discover what it means to build your legacy with authenticity and face your inner challenge with confidence.
Join us on this podcast as we explore how to become fearless, unleashing your true potential for you and your business.
If you choose to accept, your adventure awaits.
Ready to climb your inner mountain? The climb starts now. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Climb. I have the timely pleasure of speaking with Jenna Spencer, founder of AssistPro. And I say timely because I selfishly have some questions for you regarding your expertise that hopefully we can talk about soon. But first, welcome.
Thank you so much, Natasha. I'm excited to be here.
Likewise. And I know we spoke a couple months back now, and there's so much to your story that I can't wait to hear more about it. And so before we dive into your expertise and what you do, I would love to learn more about who is Jenna. What is your backstory?
Oh, well, who is Jenna? So Jenna right now is a wife of one and mother of many. I have 3 kids. Sometimes feels like a lot more. They're a little bit older now. So my daughter's 15, and then I have 2 boys who are 13 and 10. And they keep me so busy. That's my life's calling. My number one priority is wife and mom. We live on about 20 acres in the southeast of the United States, and we are so busy. We have chickens and dogs and cats and turtles and rabbits and all kinds of things, which is so super fun. I am a visionary, and I am a very independent thinker and love to generate ideas and get people excited and be people's cheerleaders and help them believe in themselves and go after what they want. I am also an entrepreneur, so I own a virtual assistant agency. We focus on providing entrepreneurs with high-level executive assistants who just happen to be virtual. And I really love what I do. We have about 150 assistants on our team right now. So, a full life going on personally and professionally, and it's a lot of fun.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, though. So when you say visionary too, it's actually, it's so related to your business because you founded AssistPro back in 2014.
14, yes, 10 years
14,
ago.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago. So that's before virtual assistants really were on our radar,
yes.
right?
Yes.
By far.
Yes.
I think COVID probably changed that for a lot of us, but that's something it wasn't very common or even known that you could have a virtual assistant. So tell us, how did that come about?
Yeah. Well, I was pregnant with my last one and had just had him and was crying every day, dropping them off at daycare, and just thought, I need to do something from home. I just need to be able to do something from home. But I had a lot of exposure to people in what we now know as network marketing or social selling. But that wasn't really what I wanted to do. So this was back when Craigslist was very popular. And I started looking on Craigslist for different positions and something that I could do in the administrative line from home. And 2 business coaches ended up hiring me as their assistant part-time. And what that turned out to be was a franchise coaching program, which is EOS. So not sure if you're familiar with that or your listeners, but EOS is the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And there's a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. It's an operating system for managing the energy of your company and helping your company move forward. And it was just kind of catching on at that time. Now they have 900 EOS coaches. And back then, I think there were maybe 100. And the 2 gentlemen that I was supporting, they said, hey, Jenna, these EOS coaches need assistants trained on this process. They need assistants that, understand this. Have you ever thought about having your own company? And I remember standing in the kitchen with my husband and I said, I can't not do this. I have to be able to help other women find the freedom that I have found. And so there were a few virtual assistant agencies, at that time that had been formed. And I just got started and found a few people that wanted to be assistants and found a few clients. And, here we are 10 years later. So,
That's so amazing, especially like given too that it came from crisis and that you found people from EOS. I'm guessing then, I guess on a little bit of a side note here, mentorship played a huge part in this too, being guided by folks in the EOS space. Like, how did mentorship support you in this journey?
yeah. Oh my gosh. I've had so many mentors over the years in really a lot of different capacities. I heard something a while back that I have adopted and done for a long time, but I didn't realize it. Someone had just vocalized it really well. And it was, you know, lots of different people can be your mentor, even if you're not in a mentor relationship with them, because you can still learn from them and apply the principles and their teachings. So the two gentlemen were my direct mentors. And so that was much more, I don't want to say like structured, but it was one on one, very specific. Okay, what am I dealing with? What are the next things I need to do? Okay, ask yourself these questions, Jenna, answer these questions, and then come back. And so it was very much a guided, hand holding approach. I also was diving into lots of different resources. So Start with Why by Simon Sinek and following, great female entrepreneurs that had paved the way. And for me, really like reading their stories and learning what they did through different experiences was very helpful. And then I also have done a couple of local mentorship opportunities. So a lot of times in, local cities, they will have entrepreneur hubs and they will have leaders in the community that are now giving back and mentoring. So I was part of that program for 2 or 3 years. And I have also invested in different paid mentorship programs over the years. So different opportunities, mentorship coaching programs, constantly working to learn and grow and persevere, like just through the different learning challenges that every entrepreneur experiences. So that's a great question that you ask me, because I am so into it in all the ways. And I've also been known to like hunt down some mentors and just be like, hey, would you give me some of your time? I just have a few questions. I've also been known to do that with people that I really admire or really want to talk to. So
Well, that's actually a really great point because sometimes, like mentorship doesn't just like happen, right? Like they're not going to just find you and vice versa necessarily. Like you do have to make that intentional effort to create that
yes.
relationship. So what sort of advice do you have around how you've done that?
The best advice I ever got that I still follow to this day is find someone who is at where you want to be and reach out to them, connect with them on LinkedIn, start liking their post and commenting. If they are in your, direct network, go to events where they are going to be. If they're speaking, go listen to them, go up to them and talk to them afterwards, get in their space and build a relationship with them and become someone that is then on their radar. So if when you make the call and want to have a question or ask, then they will have that recognition and connect with you.
Yeah, it's kind of like sales too. You don't want to just go immediately in for the pitch slap and say, "Hey, will you be my mentor?"
Yes.
It's kind of like, it's like build some curiosity, some, a little bit of a foundation first, and then kind of dive into that. And typically, it ends up happening naturally that way. No.
Yeah, because, successful people move and are in community with successful people. So what is the community that person or those people that you want to be around, like where are they involved and what companies do they associate with and in what circle do they move? Because that's also the other thing that I've always done is I've always tried to put myself in the room with people that I want to be like, that are at a higher level than I am currently at.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, so speaking of successful people, your business has grown double every year since you started. I mean, that's quite an impressive amount of growth
Thank you.
quickly.
Thank you.
What, I'm sure that there might have been some challenges along the way with that amount of growth. Can you talk us through that a little
Oh
bit?
my goodness. Yes. A lot of challenges. I think that probably the biggest learning lesson overall is there's always something new to learn, and something is always going to happen. So, what I mean by that is if your business is 2 million today and you want a $5 million business, well, you don't know how to handle a $5 million business yet unless you've done it. So just be prepared to have to learn how to deal with $5 million problems versus $2 million problems. Because I'll never forget, I was on a call with two gentlemen and it was very early, and we had doubled in size, not even grown by 50%. We had doubled in size like 2 years in a row. They're like, "Oh, Jenna, what's your vision?" I'm like, "Oh, it's going to be a $10 million company so fast." And they both kind of chuckled, and I went, "Uh-oh, this doesn't seem right." And I was like, and they were like, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Well, why wouldn't I?" And they were like, "Well, a $10 million company has $10 million problems." And I was like, "No, yeah, well, sure, whatever. But, $10 million problems. I mean, no big deal. I'll know everything by then." And then I hit, different metrics in my business. I was like, "Oh, okay, this is what they meant." And so just know that to get to those levels, like, you have to become a new person, and a different person, and you have to learn as you go. And so that's the other thing, is like, things are always happening and there's always new problems coming up, but that's what it means to be an entrepreneur, because you are learning and growing a business. Specifically, a couple of the biggest things that have happened for me is really handling people issues. There are cycles that businesses must go through. Businesses outpace employees sometimes. Sometimes change needs to happen. I love all of my employees and I have relationships with each and every one of them, but sometimes change does need to happen. And that's probably the biggest part for me personally, just to learn and grow through over the years, is going through necessary people changes.
Yeah. And this is probably also when it's helpful having mentorships, coaches that can guide you through these places where they've already experienced it. So instead of trying to learn it all by yourself, you can, seek guidance from those who have been there, done that,
Yeah,
right?
because hindsight's always 2020. So the longer you put it off, the more clear that hindsight's going to be after the fact. So having the mentors has been incredibly helpful, because I can put my trust and confidence that they've been there, because I've sought out members or mentors who are where I want to be. So I'm not asking someone at the same level as me. Those are my friends that I can complain to, and we're all in it together. But those aren't necessarily the people that I'm getting all of the experience and guidance from, because they haven't made decisions from a future point than where I'm currently at. So that has been incredibly helpful for me to say, okay, they know all the dirty details. They know how I'm emotionally feeling about it. Let me process my emotions, but then let me follow through with what I need to do. And then the hindsight's always 2020, and it was always the right decision. Now, you're always going to make mistakes. That's part of being an entrepreneur. But when it was the right decision, the hindsight's always like, yep, that was exactly the right thing to do.
For sure. So during COVID, so many businesses were negatively impacted. Is it safe to assume that you had the opposite effect? Was there an increase in your services? I mean, that's again when I started to hear more of like this term virtual assistant, right?
Yeah. I would say that it's been an interesting journey. So we were stable throughout COVID, and we were in a growth phase still. It wasn't as much as our growth phase was before, but we were still in a growth phase. I would say that we're seeing a bigger shift right now post COVID than we did previously. And the reason being is that there are so many more independent service providers, not even just virtual assistants, but there's also been a huge rise in offshore and nearshore support as well. So Latin America support has really taken off. So we are seeing a lot more change right now just with the emergence of AI everywhere and having so many capabilities. And then also just pricing sensitivities right now and needing more affordable options. So during COVID, yes, we did still have growth and we were very blessed because of that. And now we are finding new ways to work and new ways to shift. So we actually have some really cool and exciting things that we're going to be rolling out, in the next 6 months to just adjusting and shifting in the market. So
That's awesome. Yeah, you always have to be ready to pivot. And I bet you too, with like the hybrid work, that's the like new normal of like being in and off out of office. Like that's probably changed the way that people look at their assistants as well, right? Like I think most people probably are virtual at this point, or yeah,
yes,
just
most
overall.
people are virtual at this point, and a lot of people are doing lots of different jobs at one time. So the volume of fractional work, I think, has increased. So I think it's a lot more common now to not have one full-time, virtual or remote role, but have a few part-time roles. But yes, being able to pivot is another thing as entrepreneurs that we have to be able to do, but even if, unless, I mean, everything is shifting. I mean, you look at banks and now there's blockchain technology and there's AI guided assistance inside of your banking app to help you with your spending. There's AI guided learning. Like, we've just, the opportunity to elevate to such a much higher level in a short amount of time is so possible right now.
I hear you guys are about to get like record breaking rain right now. So
Yeah, all my family lives on the coast. So my mom's
okay.
in Dallas for work, but my dad is holding down the fort. My brother's doing fine. He just had his first baby though. Him and his
Oh,
wife just
nice.
welcomed their
Congrats.
first baby. So I'm going this weekend to see them. And I hope there's not too much flooding in Charleston because I'm going to my other nephew's birthday party on Sunday.
My fiance and his family, they're like messaging right now, just saying it's already like just downpouring. I don't,
Yes.
and it hasn't rained here in like 6 months probably. It's like
Oh,
summer. I forget summer here. It
like,
doesn't rain, so
can we just
he's so
like
confused by that.
transport some, please? Just like, let's just haul it like across
Yeah,
the
right.
coast. Yeah. So with AI, it's so crazy because even my level of output has increased drastically in the last 3 months. Everything from creating PowerPoints super fast to whole new content rollouts with ChatGPT. So it's a very interesting and fun time. And that's my biggest focus right now for my company is, how do I help our assistants become masters of this technology so that we can still do what we do really best, which is to provide support and create space and energy for the entrepreneur, because that's what we do well. And that's who I really look to as examples for what we do as a company. So the Mark Zuckerbergs and Steve Jobs and, those type of people, all major entrepreneurial change makers in the world, most of them, I think Elon Musk is the outlier, have relied on a lot of support and a lot of structure to reduce the amount of decisions that they make in a day, to bring their highest energetic self to the important things that they need to go to. And that is where AssistPro, our focus is not just getting tasks and just getting all this stuff off your plate. It's about helping to organize and strategize so that you can have the things off your plate, but it actually protects your energy and helps you elevate and be more productive. So that's the balance that I'm trying to create right now. So
Yeah. I love that you brought that up because that's the thing that's like very much differentiates your business from, I think, a lot of VA agencies where you're not just providing virtual assistants. You're actually going back to being like mentor and coach. Like you're probably coaching your clients on how to best even reframe or adopt that mindset around delegation,
yes,
right? Can you talk more about that?
yes. Oh, I love to talk about that.
Please.
I think we live in a day and time right now where it's, there's so much going on all the time. There's so much content and social media and video. And I mean, I get about 50% of everything I order on Amazon is next day now. It's not even 2 day anymore, which just like
Right.
blows my mind. But as an entrepreneur, as a leader, we need space and energy to be able to create and lead and to be able to stay sane and not burn out. But we are notorious for, well, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. It's okay. I can burn the fuel at both ends this week and then I'll take a break next week. So the value that, and really the picture that we paint to our clients is, but if you had someone that knew you and knew how you operated best, how could they help support you and pave the way so that you're showing up 5 steps ahead versus having to do those 5 steps? So that is a lot of what we do with our clients, and what we actually do with our assistants. Instead of saying to the client, well, we AssistPro are going to be here helping you and your assistant, and we're going to get all this stuff set up for you. That's adding overwhelm to an already overwhelming situation. We work behind the assistant to equip that assistant on how to communicate with their client, how to onboard them, how to take things off of their plate, and how to create that environment of making it easy and being their side partner. So it's all in how we approach it, and we approach it through the assistant. So we have a lot of extensive training and strategies and professional development and things on that side of it. Because now with AI and with YouTube, you can learn how to do anything and you can have help getting anything done. So
Yeah.
I love talking about that. I don't know if I actually answered your question though. I apologize.
No, you're good. Well, so actually this dives into like my selfish question I wanted to ask, because, and I'm guessing a lot of our audience is will be in this place or has hit that level where like you've hit some level of growth, and I'm finding myself with that never ending task
Yes.
list, right?
Yes.
And I'm also doing things that like I probably could outsource, but then at the same time, I'm not sure I feel financially ready to hire a VA, but then I realize that I'm not putting the time where I should. And so like, I'm not making the money I could because I'm not delegating, right? And
Yes.
so it's that like pulling that trigger and like recognizing like, I mean, I think maybe it's a little bit of being in the scarcity mindset, but how do you help? Like, what would you suggest with someone like me and others who are in this place of like growth, but what do I
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. Totally understand where you're at. So there's 2 things really. So the first is like visualizing kind of where you're at and emotionally connecting like with what you need. And then the other is just being very pragmatic about it. So the first is really viewing it as an investment and thinking through, if I didn't have to do those things, what could that free me up to focus on, which are higher income producing activities? So sometimes when we're looking at the list and we think, well, I'm not really ready to pull the trigger yet, you're right. And I don't want to say scarcity mindset per se, but you're in the mindset of, well, I need to do these things and I'm not ready yet. So if you're looking at 5 steps, you're looking at steps 1 and 2. And so I ask people to get just curious. Just curious. Doesn't mean you're going to do it, doesn't mean you're going to make a decision. But if I had an assistant, let's just play. If I had an assistant and all these things that are on my list that I don't want to do that I think I could get help with, well, what could I be doing? What could I be focusing on? And what difference would that make? And just give yourself the freedom to play and imagine, because a lot of times that can help us mentally unlock and be like, oh yeah, actually, now that I'm given myself this freedom to do this exercise, I could really be over here making a difference. But sometimes we can't even see it because we're focused over here. It's like that one exercise that philosopher does. And it's like, tell me everything in the room that's green. And you look around and you point everything that's green and it goes, okay, now tell me everything you saw that was brown. And you go, oh shoot, I wasn't looking for what was brown. I was looking for what was green. So it's looking at what you could do without any emotional attachment to, I have to make a decision and stress yourself out. And then the other side of that is I love pros and cons lists and I just love being practical about everything. So for me, when I was in that stage, to me, it was what is a deal that I can close? Or what is something additional that I know I can bring in financially that will essentially exchange, like cancel out the cost of an assistant? So, is there something I could do in my own business that would cancel that out? Because if I can make that and immediately put it towards an assistant, then in my mind, it's kind of like girl math. You haven't spent more money. You've just spent money on something that cancels out. So then everything
Yeah.
after that is a bonus. And that's the other way that I do it. So it makes it like a game, you know. So
Yeah. No, that's super helpful. And yeah, I mean, just going back to simple old school pros and cons list. I love it. That's very practical for sure.
yeah. And then, there's a couple of other things like, if you want to kind of like, all right, am I going to do this or am I not? Like, where am I at with this? Looking at your to-do list or the things that you're continually doing. And if that's $25 an hour work that you could pay someone else, every single hour that you are doing those things, you're paying yourself $25 an hour. And then the last part on that, which is great about having a virtual assistant, is that you're not committed to full time hours. So as soon as you think that you could get 5 hours a week off of your plate, that's 20 hours a month. That is only a half a week of like a full time person spread out over the whole month. So when you think you have 5 hours a week that you can delegate off and you can afford that much, then you can start getting some relief, but you don't have to make this huge financial commitment either. And that's why I love virtual assistants so much, because also if you have a seasonal business, you can scale up and scale back. It's adjustable. You can have someone check in a few times a day or once a day. And so it's not like, you know, old school when my mom brought in an office assistant and it's like, well, I got to save everything for Tuesday from 2 to 4 because that's when she comes.
Right.
So just with the capabilities, you can do it very cost effectively, and you can do it very fractionally as well.
Yeah. No, that's super helpful. So, one other thing I saw you post about recently was that you are a recovering perfectionist. And I
Oh,
think that's another area that a lot of us entrepreneurs suffer from. So, I'd love to hear how you overcame your perfectionism.
oh man. Well, I am overcoming. I don't believe that I have,
Oh,
have
okay.
overcome it completely. And so if I wrote it that I have recovered from that, I need to go back and say that I am recovering. I think it's more of a practice of asking myself the question, is this good enough? Is this good enough to get us moving in the right direction? And so a lot of times, so I've really evolved like over the years because I would have a lot of stress over, but if I roll this out, like it's got to be perfect before I do anything with it. And as I have worked with mentors that have really pushed me to just try it and see what happens, I've really learned that 20% effort gets 80% of your results. And I was putting in 70% effort. I was using so much energy and spending so much time. So it's really like building a muscle, honestly. You just kind of have to start. And the first time, you're sweating bullets, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do something. But even like with my LinkedIn, I would never post it to my LinkedIn. I was like, you know what, Jenna? Like, just post, just do it. Just
Yeah.
post something to your LinkedIn. Half the people aren't even probably going to see it, So it's slowing down and stopping and saying, well, what's the worst that could happen if I were to just, do it like this? And is this just good enough for right now? We could always change it later. So now that I'm saying that, it's actually like stopping and asking myself questions and kind of coaching
Yeah.
myself through that process.
Yeah. It's funny you talk about LinkedIn because that's one of the biggest hurdles with my clients that I have to go over with them is like they want to wait till their branding, their messaging, everything is perfect. I'm like, progress is better than perfection, right? Like it takes time to get to that point anyways. So like start, you know, and then you'll see you'll find your voice, you'll own it in that way. But like it's challenging. It's really hard to overcome that, especially when it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And putting yourself out there.
One of my coaches just went through an exercise with me recently that really helped me have a breakthrough because I was saying, but what about like, because that's exactly where I was, is, but I want it to be perfect and I've got to have it all figured out before I post. And so she had said, who's one of your, like, who's a singer that you follow? And there's like this country guy that I follow, and I actually went and saw him locally. He's not like a really big deal. And she's like, so, why is it that you listen to his music or follow him? And I was like, well, I just feel like, he's going to produce really great music. He's writing his own songs. I love the sound, and I could see him being really big. And she's like, but you realize that that's what happens in real time. He's not waiting until he's, the next George Strait or Garth Brooks. And that is the beauty of it. And that is what attracts people to follow him, is that he is taking imperfect action and being himself and just putting it out to the world. And when she said, and she's like, and there's always new people, right? Like there's always new things happening. And so she gave me an exercise to go look back through his entire social, like just go back and look through. And I was like, wow, look at how much like he's grown. And I was like, something clicked in that moment. I was like, well, now I'm even more of a fan because that's so cool. And I'm so proud of him. And I just want him to go do great things. And so that was a really cool experience, that like exercise that she had me do,
Yeah.
because I was like, but that's what people will like about me if I'm just myself and imperfect, and it changes
Right.
in real time.
Totally.
So
I mean,
even when
people are rooting for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
like even when I still think about it, I'm still like, oh, that was like mind bending for me.
Yeah, and you say that and like that seems so obvious. But it's like when you put it thinking about it for yourself, it's kind of hard to reframe it, I guess, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like I never even realized that that's what I would see and that's what I appreciated about other people. And that exercise just like stuck a mirror right in front of me, and I was like, oh, like I never even thought to turn it around. Like it's just such a crazy experience. Like, so that was just a mind-bending thing for me.
Yeah. No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Well, so closing out here, something I always ask my guests, and I love hearing people's response because I think everybody has brought something different. But self-care is so important, especially as an entrepreneur, as a mom, a wife, everything that you've got going on in a growing business. What sort of self-care routine have you incorporated into your life that is just completely non-negotiable?
Playing tennis. So I have two things. So playing tennis, I have a very active mind. And I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm ADD. But going to play tennis, it requires so much thought and focus that I can't think about anything else. And it's short points, it's quick, it's super competitive. So it just checks all the boxes, and it just moves my body so much that all my energy moves around, and then my brain and my mind like reset together. So I absolutely love that. And I love all the friends that I've made. So I've just started playing tennis in the last few years. And then my other that I actually got from one of my leadership team members is I have what's called Shrek days. So if you know Shrek, the movie, okay.
Of course. I
So
think our whole generation does. Yeah.
so I allow myself to have like what I call a mini meltdown, but it's a Shrek day. So if something happens where I'm not in a good decision-making place, or I'm just really upset about something, I allow myself 3 of my absolute favorite unhealthiest snacks in the bed with my favorite 90s or 2000s sitcom looking absolutely like Shrek. And I disconnect from the world, and
Yep.
I allow myself that, and then I shower and get presentable the next day, and then I'm good. But for me, like I have to allow myself to like go so like just deep, just be in it, just be messy, just, and then I'm good. So Shrek
Yeah.
days and tennis.
That's funny. I actually kind of had a mini Shrek day recently. I had to call that. I'm not sure what to say this, but it was when speaking to like the narcissist CEO that
Oh,
we are all very familiar with. It was kind of a cruel call with the whole team. Like everyone on that was like, wow, this is like really uncomfortable. And I remember getting off, like sitting in the bed and like sitting in my sorrows, I called it. And I
yes.
just sat there for like, solid 30 minutes. And I was like, you know what? That was totally not me. This guy was a total, like,
Yeah.
not a nice person. And
Yeah.
so I'm just going to do this for a second and then I'm gonna get out of it and
Yeah.
like shake it off kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you earned it. And, I'm just a really big believer that our body holds on to emotions, like the body keeps the score, the book, just
Right.
having gone through, several traumatic things in my life. And so when I do that, it's like our body having a physical response and our mind is like in there with it. And so just like allowing whatever needs to be in that moment be. So
Yeah.
I'm
It's
proud of you for coming out of
yeah.
that because it's so hard to deal with that type of interaction and being
Yeah.
in a man's world that is hard sometimes.
Well, Jenna, it was so wonderful speaking with you today. I really appreciate your time, despite the tropical storm coming through your way. So I appreciate you joining us today.
Oh, I had so much fun. I just loved this organic and open and honest conversation. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I have thoroughly just had a great time. Thank you.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much. Bye, Jenna.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Climb. Not ready for your journey to end? Make sure to join our online community and subscribe to our YouTube channel to discover your true spirit, strength, and potential today. Details in the show notes below. Need a guide for your journey? Check out our founder, Diane Wong's new book, The Inner Mountain.
Until next time, remember, you're an experiment. Focus on your own path and continue to climb your inner mountain. Thank you.